Hello everyone, this is Lisa. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this Blue Lace Agate out of polymer clay. And I'm really excited to show you this, so let's get down to it. For this tutorial, you'll need about 15 grams of Primo Pearl clay, less than 5 grams of Primo Navy Blue, less than 5 grams of Primo Purple, and about 28 grams of Cernit translucent clay. You'll also need some Folk Art matte acrylic paint in the color 639 French Blue, as well as some Cernit Sparkling Duo mica powder in Lapis Sunlight. Along with these, you'll need an acrylic roller, a paintbrush for the acrylic paint, a paintbrush for the mica powder, a knitting needle, a tissue blade, and a ripple blade. I also use my pasta machine for this tutorial as well. Now that we have our materials, let's condition our clays and mix some custom colors. We will be making 3 different custom colors. The first, a lavender color, is 1 part Primo Pearl, an 1/8 part Primo Navy Blue, and a 1/16 part Primo Purple. The next color we're going to make is French Blue, which is 1 part Primo Pearl and an 1/8 part Navy Blue. And finally, our third color, which I'm calling a darker French Blue, which is 1 part Primo Pearl and 3/8 part Primo Navy Blue. When I mixed my colors, I rolled out my clay onto a number 2 setting on my pasta machine. For my pasta machine, number 0 is the thickest and number 9 is the thinnest. I then used a 1-inch round cutter for my parts. It's important to note here that the amount of clay that you mix when making these colors is the amount of clay you will need in the following steps. Now that we have our custom colors mixed, we are going to combine them with translucent clay. The lavender will be combined with 4 grams of translucent. The French Blue will be combined with 4 grams of translucent. The darker French Blue will be combined with 4 grams of translucent. I have 7 grams of Primo Pearl here, which I will mix with 6 grams of translucent. And finally, I have 10 grams of translucent. Now that we have our custom colors mixed with translucent clay, we are going to roll them onto a number 7 setting on the pasta machine. Once we have our sheets of clay rolled out, we will begin cutting out rectangles from each color of clay. In this example, I'm using a rectangle in the size 1.5 inch by 1 inch. I will go through each of the sheets and cut as many rectangles as I possibly can. With any scrap left over from the cuts, I will re-roll it in the pasta machine and cut more rectangles. After cutting out all of my rectangles, I was able to get 6 lavender, 6 French Blue, 7 darker French Blue, 9 translucent, 12 pearl, and then with the additional scrap that I had left over, I was able to get 2 of a blue shade and 2 of a pearl shade. We have finally reached the part of the process where we can break out our acrylic paint. With the acrylic paint, we're going to be painting one side of all of the pearl rectangles blue, as well as one side of all of the darker French Blue rectangles. I like to squirt a little bit of my acrylic paint on my work surface, then I grab my paintbrush and I paint. With the pearl rectangles painted, I'll move on to the darker French Blue rectangles. I also decided to paint those 2 extra blue rectangles with the acrylic paint as well. While we wait for the acrylic paint to dry, we'll use our mica powder and we will paint one side of all of the translucent rectangles and one side of all of the French blue rectangles. If you happen to spill a little like I did here, don't worry, just go ahead and take that little bit of spill and apply it to the other rectangles as well. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this process for you. I also decided to apply some mica powder to these two rectangles as well. Before we can begin our stacking process, we need to wait for the acrylic paint to completely and thoroughly dry. For your convenience, I went ahead and created this table for you so that you could see the exact layering sequence that I used when making my stones. You do not need to use my exact layering sequence. You can be as random as you would like. Just be creative and enjoy the process. Now that we have all of the layers stacked, as we lift up our block, we can see all of the bands that we've created for our stone. The next step in the process is to reduce it so that we can begin adding the visual interest to the stone. With our block slightly reduced, we are now going to begin adding some visual interest to our stone. The first tool we will be using for this process is the ripple blade. We are going to be using the ripple blade blunt side down, so please be careful as the sharp side will be up and I don't want you to cut yourself. With the ripple blade, you're going to push into the clay as far as you possibly can, and you're going to be creating somewhat of a fan pattern into the clay. Once you've done that, go ahead and heal the clay and then turn it over and repeat the same process on the opposite side of the block. After pressing into the opposite side of the block with the ripple blade, go ahead and heal the clay again and we'll get ready for the next step. Now you're going to take your knitting needle and you're going to press it into the clay, making slight divots along the way. After making the divots, go ahead and heal the clay, turn it over, and do the same thing on the opposite side of the block. These indentations are what will create the visual interest within our stone and make it look more realistic. Go ahead and heal the clay again once you have completed this process. Because we have worked this clay quite a bit, I like to let it rest for a bit before slicing into it. As we take a good look at this stone that we created, you can see that there's lots of visual interest that are appealing to the eye. Whether we cut on one side or another side, we have plenty of possibilities. Now that we've allowed our block to rest, let's slice into it and see the beautiful Blue Lace Agate faux stone that we created from polymer clay. The side of the block that I chose to cut looked most appealing to me. When you're making your block, you can choose any side that looks most appealing to your eye. Now we can finally do one of my favorite things to do, slice into a block of clay. I'm cutting my pieces about 1/4 inch thick. I love how you can see all of the colors and the bands of the stone that we created. Now I'm going to take my acrylic roller and I'm going to roll it out a bit, set my pasta machine to a setting 0, and roll it through. I rolled the clay through the pasta machine so that the stripes in the piece were going perpendicular to the rollers. I really like how this stretched and elongated the pattern. Now I'm going to take the Arabian pear cutters from our collection and cut a few pieces out of this clay. When cutting polymer clay, I always like to use a little bit of cornstarch. I simply dip my cutter into my tin of cornstarch here, give it a slight tap, and place it on my clay. One of the things that I love about polymer clay is that there is rarely any waste, and we can definitely use this for other projects, so hold on to this and put this to the side. I'm going to go ahead and pick up my piece here, wipe the sides down a little bit, and there's one of our first faux stones. If you'd like to roll your pieces thinner than what I'm doing here with a setting 0, please feel free to do that. I plan to use these pieces for bead embroidery, and because of that, I like them to be a little thicker. I'm going to go ahead and slice another thicker piece here. I just love how we can see all of the stripes and visual interests that we put into this stone. This time I'm going to place the clay so that the stripes are going parallel with the rollers. That stretched the pattern just a little bit differently, and I really like how this looks. This time I'm going to be using our Sabi drop cutters from our collection. All of the cutters that I've used in this tutorial are available for sale on our website. If you'd like to go get your own set of rock rose clay cutters, I'll go ahead and put the link to the website in the description box for your reference. Spraying my blade with water often helps me lift pieces from my ceramic tile without warping the shape. I really think this is going to be a cool piece. I'm going to go ahead and continue cutting out my pieces, and I'll bring you back once I have all those pieces cut out so you can see what they look like. These are all of the pieces cut out. I think they look really amazing, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to look like once we cure them.